Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? Edgeman Cinejob coming to you guys today with another deck tech. So today we are taking a look at Bant Delver. So this is going to be blue, white, and green Delver. Now this is mixing it up from the typical standard decks that you guys may see. Now when it comes to serious competitive play, you guys will find me playing stuff like Esper or Grixis, pretty much any 3-color combination control decks or mid-range, something of the sort. But I wanted to put together Delver because it's a really solid deck. I really like it for the format, and it just does really well. But at the same time, I wanted to use some of the M13 cards that I had and just try to make the best of it, of both cards that I think are really fun to play and do very well together. So this is going to be a post M13 deck tech, and we are going to take a look at it. So before we get to that, if you guys have any suggestions for decks that you would like to see, please leave it in the comments below. And also, if you guys have missed out on any previous deck decks, please be sure to check the playlist on my channel. If you guys just click on my name down below, and if you search through the playlists on the side, one of them will be deck techs, and it'll archive all the recent deck techs that I've done. So you guys can check that out. But for now, we're going to stick to breaking this down. And the first thing we're taking a look at is the mana base here. So first off, we have Seachrome Coast. So this is going to be a playset. So with that, we are aiming to get some blue and white action going on for us. Mainly the white because of cards like Geist of Traft. Also Glacial Fortress, we're running a playset of this as well for some more blue and white. Alright, so next we have Hinterland Harbor. So with this, we are aiming to get some green mainly for cards like Quirion Dryad, which is a really awesome card, and I really like that card. But always got to have some green production in here if you're playing Bant. So for the Hinterland Harbors. For basics, we are running 10 basic lands. We have 2 forests. We have 1 plains. And we have 7 islands, so we'll break that off into 4 and then 3. And I decided to just use regular basic lands, not any full art ones or shiny ones or anything like that. But I was using some of my favorite artworks that I have in basic lands. So 22 lands total for the deck. And the rest, we have a pretty decent amount of creatures and then other spells. So we'll take a look at that now. But the one thing that you guys may be wondering is why no Moorland Haunt, and that was because I'm not trying to use swords for this deck just because a lot of people aren't really going to splurge the money and get the swords. If I was running the swords, I would run Moorland Haunt because it gives it a good target to equip the swords to onto that flying creature, but otherwise I really didn't see it fit to run the swords, or to run Moorland Haunt in the deck. But the swords were just because a lot of people don't want to put out the money for them, so I figured I'd do a deck just without them. So now taking a look at everything else. So we have our creatures here first. So playset of Delver of Secrets. Delver, just awesome card. Flips with the instants and sorceries being revealed. I'm sure you guys know how that works. If you're looking at a Delver deck tech, you should know how Delver works by now. We have Geist of Traft, so this is going to be a playset as well. Geist is just amazing, absolutely amazing, and you really want to have him early on in your hand just to kind of find the ideal time to play him and just bash in. He's just great. The hexproof makes him really awesome. So we're running a playset of Geist. Next we have Quirion Dryad. So 2-drop creature, and whenever you play a white, blue, black, or red spell, put a +1/+1 counter on the Dryad. So she gets pretty big pretty quick in this deck with free cost stuff like Gitaxian Probe and other cheap spells like Ponder, stuff like that. But ultimately, you just want to build her up big and just have her survive a lot of creatures and a lot of removal. Stuff like Bonfire, any of that stuff is just what you want to get her bigger for. So a playset of the Dryad, just really awesome creature. Probably one of my favorite ones out of M13, and I just wanted to use it. So, playset of the Dryad. Next we have Tao Rand, another card that I really wanted to play out of M13. And I have 3 of my shiny ones. But Tao Rand is also awesome because we are playing a lot of instants and sorceries. And whenever you cast a instant or sorcery spell, you get to put a 2/2 flying blue Drake creature token onto the battlefield. And he just adds up. Like the amount of instants and spells that you keep on playing, it just adds up, and you just keep on getting 2/2s just here and there. So it makes it really nice. And if you are playing against a Delver deck that runs the swords, it's going to be nice because you're not. Chances are that they're going to be running Sword of War and Peace, so you still have those blockers that can block those creatures that have the sword attached to them. So that's the one nice thing about Tao Rand. And also, if your opponent's playing like a Ratchet Bomb or something like that, it's not going to be good enough because Tao Rand just pumps out all of these tokens just left and right with each instant and sorcery that you play. So Ratchet Bomb does take care of them, but you can just make a lot more with Tao Rand, and that's where it gets to be overwhelming sometimes for people. But I love Tao Rand, probably one of my favorite cards, along with the Dryad from M13. So 3 Tao Rands. Next we have Snapcaster Mage. So running 3 of the mages pretty much lets us reuse the instants and sorceries that we've already played, or for some reason have been discarded from our hand or something like that. But Snapcaster is definitely really awesome. He flashes himself in and gives flashback to the instant or sorcery of your choice. So that's why he's awesome. So 3 Snapcasters. Menelik, we're running a playset. We're still running this because most decks, even if they're running Cavern, they don't always get it. And they might try, if it's an aggro deck, they might try to put out 2 creatures per turn instead of just 1 with the Cavern. And Menelik will still solve that situation for you if they don't really pay attention to what they're doing. Also, there's a lot of control decks. There's a lot of decks that use non-creature spells, so Menelik will take care of that. But it's still a really relevant card in the format until rotation at least. But Menelik is still really good and should be played as a playset in decks like Delver. Next we have Ponder. So another playset here as well. Pretty standard with Delver decks as it goes. But playset of Ponder for letting us rearrange the top 3 cards of our library. If we don't like it, we can shuffle it away, but it basically lets us plan out our next 2 turns, which we could be good for stuff like Delver or land drops that we may need in turns to come. But all in all, Ponder is a great card. After rotation, we're going to have to deal with Index, but Ponder's really good. Ponder's much better than Index, even though you get to look at less cards, you still get to draw, which is pretty. It's pretty tremendous when you look at it as a whole. But I have one of my altered ones here, and I plan on doing more of the Pokeball alters. And so playset of Ponder, Gitaxian Probe next. So Gitaxian Probe lets us look at our opponent's hand. So it just says target player's hand, but we get to look at their hand. You can also take notes during a set game that you're playing. So if you Gitaxian Probe your opponent, you can write down what they have and then start crossing stuff off as they play it. There was actually a rule change to that, I think a really long while back ago, but they basically changed it to where you actually can take notes on stuff like that. But I don't think originally it was that you could. But either way, you get to look at your opponent's hand and draw a card. And the great thing about this is it's Phyrexian blue mana. So if you have the Dryad or Tao Rand out there and you want to utilize some synergy with that, you can just pay 2 life and use the card still. So Gitaxian Probe, very useful card. Playset of it. We'll put that right there. Next we have Vapor Snag, so another really standard card with Delver decks, as you guys could imagine. So 1 blue, and return target creature to its owner's hand. Its controller loses 1 life. So Great way to send back your opponent's stuff. If your opponent, for some reason, is still running the Mirran Crusader and Angelic Destiny combo, then you're going to have some fun with Vapor Snag, because that's one of the greatest ways to just mess with your opponent, is if they swing in with big bulky dude and you just Vapor Snag it away. After rotation, it's going to be unsummoned. The one life loss is nice, but it doesn't make unsummon any less playable whenever Vapor Snag isn't in standard anymore. Unsummon's still going to be played, but Vapor Snag, while we have it, just because they lose one life, and that is a little bit more relevant for us. Next we have Mutagenic Growth. So this is mainly for Tao Rand, just because it doesn't work with the Dryad, because she doesn't pump with green spells. But the Mutagenic Growth is nice with Tao Rand, because you can make him survive stuff like Bonfire if your opponent just wants to use Bonfire for whatever the highest toughness among your creatures is, and then do multiple things per turn. You can drop Mutagenic Growth, pump something up higher, and have it survive. Also, it makes creatures bigger if you're trying to trade. If you swing in with like Delver and they happen to, I don't know, play like, if they happen to flash in Snapcaster or something like that, and you play Mutagenic Growth to have Delver survive. It's stupid small stuff like that where you can get around it with Mutagenic Growth. I also kind of went back and forth between Gutshot and Mutagenic Growth, but I ended up just putting Gutshot in the sideboard. It's a good card, but I don't run into enough situations where I need to be running Gutshot unless it's just really heavy aggro. But more times than none, I find Mutagenic Growth to be really good, so that's why I have that main board. But if I need it, Gutshot sides in. But 2 Mutagenic Growths here synergizes with stuff like Tao Rand, and lets you survive bonfires if your opponent's just trying to wipe and then do multiple stuff. But Mutagenic Growth is good for that. And the last card that we have here is Faith's Shield. So we're running 2 Faith's Shield. And this is probably one of the most underrated uncommons when it comes to Dark Ascension. This card is actually pretty good whenever it comes to Delver and a lot of aggro decks, because for 1 white mana, giving target permanent that you control protection from a color of your choice is pretty large. Especially if you get the Faithful Hour to work for you, then all of your permanents get protection from that chosen color. But nonetheless, Faith's Shield has worked really well as a tool in this deck because of cards like Bonfire, Slagstorm. Your opponent is planning on getting they're planning on wiping your board, and the Faith's Shield can save cards like the Dryad, or even pump up Dryad just one power and toughness higher than what your opponent's planning on dealing to keep it in there. But Faith's Shield has worked really good with that. Also stuff like against Zealous Conscripts, if they try to take something of yours, you can use Faith's Shield on it, which it doesn't happen all the time, but if they want to take your Delver or something like that and bash in with that, it helps against that. Also, if they try to take your Dryad, which has happened a couple of times where the Dryad's been pretty big and they try to take that, Faith's Shield helps with that. But all in all, the protection's nice against red spells that would deal damage to all of your creatures. You can have them survive. Also protection from attackers or blockers if your opponent's trying to swing in and you don't want to lose one of your creatures. But at the same time, if you have one creature that's going in for the kill and your opponent has enough blockers, sometimes Faith's Shield could be the card that could let you win, just because they have all creatures of one said color, and you can gain protection from that color and just gain the advantage on your opponent. But Faith's Shield is good for a lot of different reasons, and it's been underrated for a long time, but I really like using it, and it fits a really good spot in the deck. So that is pretty much everything that I'm running for this deck. So if you guys missed anything of the deck list, the entire deck list is going to be down below so you guys can use it as a reference. Please be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe if you guys enjoyed this deck tech. And please be sure to subscribe for more Magic the Gathering videos daily. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So be sure to check back for more MTG videos. But until then, guys, thank you for watching and have a wonderful, fun-filled Magic the Gathering day.